All right, and we are live with another episode of Mentor Minutes. If you've got any questions, any situations, any struggles in leadership, this is a great place to ask them. So I'll be taking questions live over here on my Facebook channel, but if you're catching this on a replay on my podcast or over on YouTube, you can always drop down into the comments section. You can send me an email, cm@cameronmorsey.com, and I will get your question to open up the next episode of Mentor Minutes. But while we queue up some people over here on Facebook for our questions for today, I'd like to handle some of the questions I didn't get a chance to get to in my last episode, and also some ones that I received offline, either through direct message or email or some of the other channels I just mentioned. First one's a nice little kind of flip over what we usually talk about, and that is, how do you manage a micromanaging client who doesn't listen or appreciate anything at all? And boy, isn't that the truth? That tends to be a lot of our customers or a lot of our clients that don't appreciate all of the effort that goes into serving them. And hey, they're paying for the service. That sort of level of service is something that's implied in that. So I don't begrudge them necessarily those high standards. However, it is frustrating sometimes that they don't give you credit for those things. The way you handle a micromanaging customer is very similar to how you handle your own micromanagement or a micromanaging boss. And that is, you set aside set up ahead of time, set up updates. So set on the calendar prescribed updates for when you are going to fill them in on whatever it is that is going on. So you start quick. It's because they're used to being able to get you, on a dime anytime. Hey, good to see you here. Abdulhamid, there you go, got it, from Dubai, very nice. Desert weather, just like here. But set aside updates, because what that does is that brings a little bit of control. So instead of it being just ad hoc, where they reach out through email or pick up the phone every darn time they have any question at all about what's going on with their account, you can have these things set up so that they can maybe hold off until 4 o'clock every day. Let's say it's a daily call with this particular client, and hopefully you can push that out. But push them towards that. And if they send out an email anytime after noon, then go ahead and wait until 4 o'clock to answer it. So you're right on top of it in those cases. And what you do is you slowly but surely look to extend out some of those updates. So maybe if it starts out, I'll give you worst case scenario, it starts out as daily. So instead of having them looking over your shoulder, micromanaging you, sending you emails 3 times a day, there's one meeting. Then you stretch it out to 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, let's say. And then maybe it's twice a week, and then maybe it's once a week. So slowly but surely you try to stretch that out as much as possible. Now you may or may not, depending on how micromanaging this particular customer is, be able to do that. But even if you just centralize it to one point in a particular day, that's something that brings a little bit more control to the situation and helps you manage it a little bit better. Ahmed, great to see you here, and Cassie, love it. Good to see you here as well, and you get to start us off with our first question. I got Sharon tuning in from New Zealand, so I got a couple people from down under on today. Question is how do you stay motivated if you work on your own, for example, no boss? You get in touch with your purpose, Cassie. So, I'll draw a correlation with myself here. There isn't a boss that's necessarily trying to motivate me, but what is your purpose? And I want, if that question doesn't resonate, nothing pops to mind right away. What is your purpose within the organization? Why is your role important in the organization? What is the effect of you doing your job well? And another great way, for those of you that have trouble putting together a purpose for your department, I talk about this a lot as far as motivation is concerned. If you're struggling to put together the purpose and the importance for your department, ask yourself this question. If you disappeared, what would the effect be on the organization? So in your case, Cassie, it may be that people don't get trained up on things. People don't stay up to date on customer support, and so it starts lacking. And slowly but surely the organization starts deteriorating. For other people, like finance is one that I get a question about a lot. How do I tell my people why they are important when they're logging invoices all day long? Well, if all of you disappeared and nobody noticed and nobody filled in the blanks, what would happen to the organization? It would go bankrupt in the span of a month because no bills would get paid and no revenue would get recorded and all of those things. You track the financial lifeblood of the organization so that they can deploy those resources properly. That's the one I always throw out with finance. In the case of a customer support role, you take care of the most valuable resource, which is the customer. And if we don't take care of the customer to the best of our abilities, they're not going to keep coming back to us. So that might be how I would tackle that. Cassie, let me know if that didn't answer the question or I took a different tack with it. As always, drop down into the comment section, or we'll talk next week as well. Sharon, good to see you here. So while I wait for some more questions to queue up, if you got some questions, drop them down here. I do have another one that I received through direct message, and that is, do you think it's okay to ask to have your position regraded if it recently changed in responsibilities? And so for those that didn't catch the lingo, if you're talking about a regrade, you're talking about, truthfully, a pay increase. I don't think that they're looking for a pay decrease regrade. Yes, you can. However, it is often best, and it depends on the org. I'll take a couple of different tracks with this. So yes, if you are in a very structured organization, and if you're talking regrades, you're probably in that structured organization. That's why I kind of backtracked on where my original thought was going to go with this, and I'll get to that in a second. So yes, it's okay to ask about it. What you want to absolutely do is you want to try to draw correlations between the responsibilities that you now have and whatever that next grade is up. So maybe it is somebody in another department that's doing the same thing that is one level above you as far as the grading is concerned. Maybe it is, maybe you need to get more creative, but draw a correlation between somebody that currently exists. Then draw the correlation between what is the responsibilities and what should be taking place. But I also want you to really include why you are already exceptional in those responsibilities. Because one of the things that's going to pop up is, no, we don't want to, regrade you necessarily because you haven't even tried out those responsibilities. We don't know if they're set in stone. So make sure you've got your responsibilities locked down, that you are exceptional in all those things before you go asking for a regrade. Now, for people that don't have as much of a structure behind it, if there isn't a graduated salary scale, let's say, that's kind of set in stone, then this happens a lot with government organizations in particular, the grading system for salaries. But for those of you that are more out in most other companies, I don't recommend asking for a pay increase. What I recommend asking for is a promotion. Pay increases, getting a raise and just asking for it because you're exceptional, almost never works out. I've actually, back in my career, I have gone to bat for an employee that I thought deserved a raise, and I got shot down the 2 times that I went for it. Let alone turning other people down when they came to me looking for raises. Very, very rare, less than 10% of the time, even if you have exceptional metrics and exceptional things that you can kind of reference as far as warranting a raise in this particular environment, you still end up getting shot down. The best way to get a raise is to get promoted. And if you can't get promoted into a role because somebody's already there, you can always create a position. So in this case, she was given extra responsibilities. That may mean that she is now, instead of a supervisor, she is a lead analyst. Try to create a position that justifies the role that you have, the responsibilities you have, and justifies a pay increase as well. That's one of the best ways and the creative way of getting that pay increase. So many people get raises and move up the ladder into positions that didn't exist before they got there. And it's something that may need to wait till the budget cycle. Hey, for everybody that's on a calendar year budget, we're heading into August. That's budget season, so start getting your ducks in a row for that. But it's often easier and you're more likely to get that jump if you can create that position. And for superstars out there, what often happens is you get thrown work because everybody knows that you're going to do it and do it well. And so your job does morph and change and everybody recognizes it, but not everybody recognizes all of the pieces of it. So if you can lay it out to your boss, a new position in the company and that you'd be perfect for because you're already doing it, that's something that can help you. That's a route that I usually recommend as far as trying to get regraded, get a promotion, get a pay increase, is look for that new position that you can create that'll fit in there. Pamela has the next one, and that is, how do you get a disgruntled staff member who didn't get a promotion to work with new team members? A part of it is getting very real. And I am getting this question a lot more, especially I want to say in the last week, is people getting passed up for promotions. And you want to get real. And there's a couple of ways that you want to get. First of all, you need to tell the person why they didn't get the promotion. What do they need to work on to get the promotion the next time? And really come up with a plan for them to work at it. All right? People will surprise you. There will be people that you don't think will ever be suitable for supervisors, where if you give them a plan to work, you'd be surprised how they can actually work it. So you absolutely do that. The second thing, and probably the thing that I see most overlooked, is people are promoted. So you get an internal promotion. You open up a supervisor position. You have 10 people that apply for it. The person that gets it gets begrudged by everybody else because they don't know what the background is. The announcement goes out that says, hey, Cameron got promoted. Everybody give him congratulations. We wish him well in the new supervisor role. No, you need to tell everybody in the organization very briefly why Cameron was selected. Cameron was promoted to supervisor because he had 10 years already in retail management, because he had been handling these special projects that nobody else in the organization knew about, or none of the line level or peers knew about. So you give the reasons, and that way people understand why you at least gave that promotion to somebody else instead of them. So those are the two ways that you kind of tackle it. You do need to understand that there's going to be a mourning period. So this person that got passed up for a promotion, it's an emotional thing. It's a rejection. And so maybe they bounce back after a day. But usually it takes a week to kind of get over those things where you can start talking through some of these practical matters. The other thing is just start small. Give them something that they are exceptional at. Give them something that they like doing that requires them to work with other team members and get them on board in that particular way. Put them on point for what they need to do and what their responsibilities are. If they're withdrawing and trying to silo, don't let them. Give them things that keep them engaged, and that will help them reintegrate. A lot of this just takes some time, but if you get ahead of it from those communication standpoints, you can kind of speed things up a little bit. All right, Pamela, I hope that helps. Let me know if it didn't, and if you need kind of a follow-up on that, just drop it down in the comments and we'll tackle that next. Stacy Lynn, how do you motivate a staff that doesn't want to be motivated and is negative? And that's cutting right to the chase. Pamela, I'm glad that worked for you. If you have an entire, I want to say, culture of negativity, what you want to look for is you want to look for the smallest success. We'll talk about a couple of different things, but I want to talk about successes first. Look for the smallest success and celebrate that. All right? The way that you start a winning streak, the way you break a losing streak, no matter how long the losing streak is, the way you break it is exactly the same, and that is you get a win. So if everybody is negative and everybody is demotivated, I want you to put a spotlight on the one thing that might be going well. Or if they have one particularly great day, it can be an outlier. It could be completely random that they happen to beat their sales goal on a particular day. I want you to really just shout it to the rafters how great it was, because what you're doing is you're breaking the cycle. It doesn't matter necessarily that they buy into this celebration per se. You're simply breaking the cycle, and that helps you bring things around just a little bit. Then you're going to look for another success that you can champion, and then another, and before you know it, you're moving from a losing streak to a winning streak. And people like being part of winners, and especially when you have just an overall negative morale, you want to break those things up. The second thing that I want you to do, Stacy, is I want you to pull a couple of the employees who you think would be straight with you. They don't necessarily even need to be the ones that are the happiest of all of them. They could be the most negative, but the ones that are just going to give you the straight scoop on what's going on in the organization. And I want you to tell them, hey, just so you know, I see a lot of demotivation out there and everybody's kind of negative. What's going on out there? And ask them, well, what do you see that's a problem that we need to fix? I get back to those 5 questions and you can tweak them. All right? So where's the problem we need to fix? What's going wrong? What do you see that's going wrong in the organization? And so you tackle that the 2 negative parts of those 5 questions I talked about. But you talk about those 2 negative, those couple of things, and you put them on point to try to find something. because you're looking for something small that you can fix and address and tell everybody about. So go to the staff. Don't guess at what is demotivating them. Don't guess at why they're negative. You'll probably guess right, don't get me wrong, but don't. Involve them, because what happens is those two people, let's say you brought in two people, you take action on something that they said. Now those are two people that have a little bit more ownership in what's going on in the organization. And those are two people that are going to tell the people that are around them, hey, Stacy brought me into the office and she asked me what was going on. I mentioned a couple of things and she actually did something about them. Then you go out to other people and ask them the same questions. And before you know it, the team that is demotivated and negative is giving you the game plan for turning those things around. It doesn't always work out that easily, but more often than not, you will be surprised if you're persistent with it, that they will actually tell you what it's going to take to get them turned around and motivated. So look for the successes first and foremost, then look for a couple people that can tell you some things that need to get fixed in the operation, and then things will turn around. I suspect, Stacy, that there's a couple of other factors that play into that, and if there are, go ahead and drop those down. Those two suggestions I just made, those stand regardless of what else is going on. It could be that the business is taking a dive, whatever else it is. But let me know what else might be playing into that negativity, and drop down in the comments and we'll go ahead and tackle that as well. But great question, and that's so much of it. You want to, when you're talking about behaviors, and negativity is a behavior for everybody out there, when you have people that aren't exhibiting a certain behavior that you want them to see, or aren't following a particular procedure that you want them to undertake, you want to create a break in that habit so that you can help form a new habit for them. So just look for the smallest little break that you can make, and then you just keep, pulling it apart and break it up just a little bit more. I'm caught up on questions online, so if you have any more, drop them down in the comment section. I'll answer them pretty much in real time, but I do have another one that I received, and that is, how do you deal with employees who need appreciation and reward for every single action to be done? What I look to do is I look to group them as much as possible. And hey, you're going to have those needy employees. And sometimes this is trained behavior. Sometimes this is somebody going overboard with the praise aspect of motivation. We talk about the need for it. Too many times we're focused on problems and we're not focused enough on successes. Well, there is a flip side to that where somebody is talking constantly about successes and giving so much praise that it just becomes a given with every single activity, and you've created a whole bunch of needy employees. So not abnormal, not unheard of at all, but look for ways to group it. Okay? And the way you do this is you actually start it off the day before you're kind of looking to do this, and that is you bring the person over at the end of the day and you list out a few of the things that they did right. Hey, I just wanted you to know I did notice that you did this and you did this, and that was all great and I appreciated it, and you also did this and this. So they see that, I want to say, they're getting credit for it. They may not have received that praise or that pat on the back or that attaboy or attagirl in the instant moment, but they did get it. So do that at the end of the shift. All right, kind of group some things together. Then I want you to kind of starve them just a little. The next day, you're going to break it down, and before lunch, hey, you had a really good morning. I noticed you did this and this. That was really great. Keep it up. And then at the end of the day, do the same thing. And so you might do that depending on their behavior, depending on their demeanor. You might do that 2 a day, right before lunch, right before everybody leaves for the day. You may do that 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 5 days, whatever it is, whatever makes sense. And then you stretch it out to once a day. And then you stretch it out to... close that down. And then you stretch it out to once every 2 days, once every 3 days, once a week. So you just slowly but surely starve them of that addiction that they have to that praise. So I'd recommend next day, at the end of the day, even if you had just praised them for something that needed to get done 30 minutes before, find a few things you didn't notice over the course of the day, or that happened to take place that anybody would have known about. And praise them for that at the end of the day. Break that cycle. Show them that they're going to receive that in bunches, and then do that and roll it out over the rest of the day. So, Anybody else that's online, if you got any questions, I'll answer them in real time. Otherwise, I will get caught up on some of the ones that I didn't get a chance to get to before. Next one is, how do you balance pleasing higher ups without taking on too much? We want to show that we can turn around projects quickly and effectively and meet their needs and wants, but not overload ourselves. When is it okay to say no? And wow, that's a great question. So we want to be that person that is a resource as much as possible for everything that's going on in the organization. And we don't want to say no to our boss. But the best way to say no, the best way to get some control, and the best way to show that you are ready for the next position up the ladder is to use priorities to say no. Hey, I would love to tackle that, but I do have this and this and this, and I know those are really high priority items. So I can do those and then do this one after, so you mix in the priorities just a little bit. And that's something that helps show to your boss that you are looking at things and looking to prioritize what is important versus what is urgent, let's say. The importance and urgency kind of balancing act that you want to run there. And that shows them that leadership quality that they're looking for. Now, what you may find, and this happens a lot when people are getting overloaded, it all needs to get done. That's the response, is, well, I'm going to give it to you and it all needs to get done. When you get that sort of response, which is terrible, please don't do it to any of your team. When you get that response, the question to ask is, not a problem, I'll get them all done. Which one do you want done first? When they won't give you priorities, then tackle the urgent aspect of priorities. So they may want 4 things done today. You know that's never ever going to happen. They know it's never going to happen, but they're still asking for it in the hopes that maybe some miracle takes place. Ask them which is more important, which they would like to have done first, and that's something that'll help you out of that. All right, I will give about 15 more seconds for any questions out there. I know I missed it. It's Father's Day here in the States. I'm a dad, and I wish all the fathers out there, stateside and outside the States, a happy Father's Day. If you are tuning into this late, no worries. You can drop your question down in the comments. I always check the prior day's episode to see if there's anything that I missed, or you can email me, cm@cameronmorsey.com. Check out the podcast if you get a chance. I'll have the link up here in a second. And otherwise, you all have a great Sunday or a great Monday morning if you're on the other side of the date line. And I will talk to you tomorrow. Thanks. Bye-bye.